Hey, welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews. I'm Scott. There's Dave next to me, and we are right into the Christmas holiday season. Today, rah. We did that last year.
Yeah, we did.
We did. This time around, we got to watch something that I hadn't seen, and my God, damn, have I been missing out. We watched The Man Who Invented Christmas, kind of a biography movie of Charles Dickens and how he wrote A Christmas Carol. And
yeah,
I'm just going to start with, I am completely blown away and so in love with this movie. I have very, very little complaints, and the only real complaint I have is the sound design. I found it hard to hear over the music a couple times, but other than that, it was, God, this was good. Dude.
So freaking good. Before we get too deep, I always forget to read everybody's name, so I want to go through the cast real quick. Dan Stevens played Charles Dickens. Now, Dan Stevens was on not To the Manor Born. I'm getting all my British movies mixed up.
I definitely won't know.
No, Faulty Towers either. We're going to have to start over.
Faulty Towers. Oh, no.
I forgot the name of the goddamn story.
John Cleese is not in it.
Going to talk about.
Anyhow, if you want to look up the cat, oh Lord, just beat my mic. We're off to a rip-roaring start today. One of the things that surprised me about watching this movie. Now, this is basically the story of Dickens and how he came about with the idea to write this story after he had a few flops. He was very broke, very much in debt, and very much like his father. And he comes up with an idea. He can sell a book, and he gets the advance on it, but he's only got 6 weeks to get this book done, get printed, and out and sold for Christmas. He does it. This is the early mid 1800s. It's mind blowing to me that they pushed this through so fast and got it printed. I was thinking of the poor typesetters with all of that stuff.
Artist.
Oh my! And the artist that had to do this. I'm a graphic designer and have been professionally in the past, and I always think of shit like that because I would have the luxury of sitting at a computer and drawing the art and laying out the typefacing and the spacing and everything and getting it ready for the press. Whereas back then, these people were laying it out letter by letter in these trays, and it's very time consuming.
You got to get the pikas right. You got to get
everything, the leading. Oh, we can go on and on about that crap, but it was a very manually intensive job then, and they did it. And he, what was really cool is I'm about halfway through watching this movie before I realized that I'm watching A Christmas Carol.
Right, as it's coming to be.
I'm watching the story of A Christmas Carol in real time as multiple influences for Scrooge and himself being the biggest one. And that's the one that got me. It's like, oh my God. Because at first, they show a scene of Dickens is at a gravesite, and he sees this old man who's just mean. And man, that's what you see when you think of Ebenezer Scrooge. And it wasn't, but you get to see the little hints. The sick boy is Tiny Tim, and it just
the notes,
every little piece.
Yeah, the notes he's taken as somebody says something to him, and he goes and writes it down right away. Like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
One of my favorite spots in this movie, and it just really caught me off guard, was when he sets down to write, and it's near the beginning when he's starting to write this story. And all of a sudden you hear a dove take off and fly away, and his train of thought is derailed. And it's like, his thoughts just flew away. It's like, that was a good sound choice on there. And it's like, there's cues like that throughout. If you watch this movie, here's the thing, folks. If you have never seen A Christmas Carol and have never read the book, stop. Don't even watch this. It won't make any. It won't make no sense.
It won't make no sense. You have to shoot a rocket at it. Thank you, Travis.
It won't make any sense. But if you know the story and have seen this over and over, like Dave and I have, you'll watch this. You'll understand, and it just has so much more meaning. It's like watching for the Easter eggs. It's like, oh shit,
yeah.
And I read today that pretty much this is a true, accurate telling of how it came about.
How it came about. I see. I was wondering how, because I remember reading years ago that this came out in sections, like he was selling it as in chapters, and then he put it together and sold it by Christmas. Now I don't know how accurate that is. I know that he was behind. He was always behind when he was writing it. You know what I mean? Like he was always like a day late, or 2 days, whatever. But he was always
he had a lot of distractions
getting it out there. But when you watch this movie, you're like, oh, okay. If that part is true, then you completely understand. I was always under the impression that Dickens and his wife weren't very close, but this movie shows them as very close. I'd like to look a little bit more into that and see how accurate that is.
They're pretty close because they had 10 kids.
Because in this movie, yeah, he's got 10 kids. I know that somebody had moved in with them towards the end of their life, and
it was his dad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, his dad.
No, not in the movie.
Yeah. No, but I mean, his dad did end up moving in with him. That stuff is accurate.
Yeah, that's what's very strange.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm back.
No, please.
To the cast.
You got him up. Let's bring up the cast.
Dan Stevens, was in Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, yeah.
My mind went blank the minute I wanted to say it. It's one of my favorite movies, or television series, and I highly recommend watching it.
I'll have to.
Really well written, really well done. I mean, I can't praise Downton Abbey enough.
Wow. Okay.
Mark Schreier was the presenter. That was the guy that whenever he's in America.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go into that. This woman's name I'm going to destroy because I think it's Irish and I think it's Old Celtic. I think it's an Old Celtic word.
Is it his wife?
It's his wife.
I think she's Swedish.
Morfydd Clark. And it's spelled, her first name is Morfydd.
Yeah, I think she was Swedish when I looked it up.
Oh, Swedish. Well, okay.
So.
It all looks the same to me, folks. I'm an American.
Which it very well could be Irish with the way the Scandinavians traveled and took tours of other countries and took people home with them.
Well, they were on walkabouts.
They were on walkabouts. Just brought people back. Hey, you want to come live with me? I'm sure it was all mutual.
Whether you want to or not, you're coming.
Yeah.
Justin Edwards was John Forster. That was his friend that he tries to fire at one point. And his friend says, "You can't fire me." He's like, "Why not?" Because I don't work for you. I'm your friend. He just looks at him. He's, "I'll see you tomorrow."
His friend really got him, really understood him. Yeah. I mean, really, it was cool.
They'd be like you looking at me going, "Dave, you're fired. You can't fire me."
Exactly.
You're fired.
All right, fine. See you tomorrow. God damn it.
I'll see you tomorrow then. What's funny is this guy, Cosimo Fusco, was the guy who played Signor Mazzini, the guy that kept fixing the chandelier that broke. But you see the picture of him.
He kept charging money.
And he kept charging him for it. When you see him on IMDb, he doesn't look anything like he looks in the movie. Like he looks nothing like he looks in the movie. They have a lot of other names, but the name that I thought was very interesting was the little girl who plays Tara.
Yeah.
Her name is, I thought it was going to be some really long Irish, lilty, Celtic name. Her name is Anna Murphy. It's a very, very common name, but it's not like what I was expecting.
But the very Irish actress that she was, or at least she played it.
Accent, and she's talking like this, Mr. Dickens, the whole time that, you can't kill Tiny Tim. It's beautiful. She plays that part so well. Her name is Anna Murphy. She also plays Ghost of Christmas Past. Yeah. Because the people that he meets are the inspiration for the character.
His best friend is the ghost of present.
Ghost of present. Yeah, Forster. And then you see them as the characters that inspired him. And it's just so cool.
It's neat.
Of course, you got Jonathan Pryce as his dad.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good.
One of the things I found neat when I looked up the cast earlier was a lot of attention to detail in the casting. If you go pull up illustrations of Dickens and the rest of these characters,
right,
and look against how they look in the movie,
right,
dude, they are they look like the people that were there. So that was some serious casting. Really cool.
And what's great about Jonathan Pryce's character, if you look at Jonathan Pryce, that's what Dickens looked like when he was older.
Oh,
He had the
wow.
beard, he had the long hair.
Yeah.
And I started laughing because it's the first time I really noticed it was last night. I'm like, that's what Dickens looks like. That's he took on his father's, the beard and all that.
He did.
There was what was it? Crap, I had a thought and just went out of my head. But as far as like you said, Leach, the artist, the guy who plays Leach, and I'll pull his name up in just a second. But that actor also played Dickens, I believe, in the Ninth Doctor's series when they meet Charles Dickens.
Really?
I think that's the guy. I think that's the guy who plays Charles Dickens. And Leach was a big time character actor, or not character. The guy who played him was a big time character actor.
How cool is that?
And I didn't have a chance to look it up, but I just wanted to say that's who I think that guy is. And Mr. Grimsby. Grimsby was the guy who Bill Patterson was the actor's name who played Mr. Grimsby, and I think that was the lawyer that he goes to see.
Oh,
he
the
asks
old man
for
with
more money.
With the cookies,
that's so disgusting.
He's so mean. But that's why it was great for him to show up as the
ghost.
And with the chains.
Marley. Christopher Plummer.
Oh, so good.
Now I want to see just a movie with Christopher Plummer playing Scrooge. I just want to see the movie where he literally plays the part.
What really threw me off was his voice and delivery. I swear to God, there were times if I closed my eyes, I was listening to Patrick Stewart, and it's like,
no, there were times when you heard that and you're like, holy crap!
Engage.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the hell? Well, Jean-Luc.
Simon Callow was the guy's name who played Leach, the artist.
Okay.
And if anyone ever has a chance to look at that old artwork that's in the books, it's beautiful. It is.
What little they showed looks really cool, and I did see some of that up online today.
I looked for some of the stuff online before, and I used to years ago had a book that was obviously a reprint because.
Oh yeah.
I'd be retired if I had one of those original. How would you like to have one of those original bindings, the original print? First print of Charles Dickens.
There's the Holy Grail. I would love to find one.
Oh man, that would be. I'd want two: one to have and one to sell. Oh God, that'd be beautiful.
If I just had one, I'd have to sell it.
But I know that the character Leach really did have a hard time. Like the actual guy was like, "No, I don't want to do this."
He didn't have any time.
Yeah, he didn't have the time. And artists, especially back then, you really needed the time. I mean, nobody had a computer desk. They couldn't.
I love what they did to his friend.
There was none of that shit.
No.
There's none of that. Could you imagine what that guy could do if he learned how to use a Wacom back then?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, he had to have people pose. It was very involved. I mean, everything was done by hand, and that's as well. I mean, shit. It takes a while.
It's incredible, and his artwork is just gorgeous. Some of the stuff, like when Marley's ghost shows up, and they do the image of Marley's ghost coming to haunt Scrooge. That alone, I don't even know if any of that artwork still exists.
Now, I'm going to go off on a weird question here.
Go ahead.
Do you know how they printed that? I mean, how they got artwork in the 1800s ready for the press? Do you have any idea? Because I know when I did it, we made film and went from film, but that's.
I can only.
Are they wood carvings?
I can only guess that they did like what we used to do. Would you take the print? You have like the actual artwork, and they would somehow engrave it onto a plate.
Right.
And that plate would print, and then you'd have to line up whatever colors you had.
Right.
Everything was separate. If I remember my printing. Press days
and that's definitely how it is with film. Every color has its own plate, and it's layered on top of each other and lined up.
And a lot of those guys, they used to have to do like you'd have to literally scrape in a mirror image of whatever it was you were looking at. Like you'd have to scrape it out to get that plate made.
Damn.
I don't know. I don't know if they had the acids and stuff like they
Yeah, I
do
wonder.
in the
It was just
50s
a
and
random
60s.
thought. It's like, it's
Yeah.
easy for us nowadays to get things printed because
It's a
the
long
computers.
time since I thought about that. I mean, just
Yeah.
print alone, just letters alone
Well,
was
that's what I was thinking of is the poor typesetters there with all the
yeah.
fucking letters. And then now it's like the artists are like, shit, how did they get that onto a printing plate?
Because I
Oh,
remember back in high school, we learned how to do the printing, and I'd worked very short couple of weeks at a print shop
mhm.
for a friend of mine, and we had to do the letting. We had to do the
Jeez.
old letters, and it was that's what we had. I mean, this is
Yeah.
back mid '80s.
Hmm.
Things were just starting to go over to like word systems, and
Yeah.
where you could type. But even that was just as almost as difficult as doing the letting. It was almost easier to go out and set the type, and that was all backwards
Yeah.
because when it printed, that's then it was readable.
Hmm.
So you had to do everything backwards, which is for a guy like me who's just Jesus. I can't. I'm in the wrong job.
Yeah, that would have been hard.
Real quick, printing was not for me. But
It's much easier with a computer.
I do vaguely, yeah, explains why I suck at the computer. I do remember vaguely some of the acids and stuff that we had to put on some of the plates
Mm.
and to burn like an image in.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were that
I
advanced.
wonder. I want to look it up. That's a rabbit hole that I'm gonna have to go down because I was like, wow. Not only did he create these artworks, they had to get him onto a printing
Yeah.
press somehow.
And you remember you had to do all the colors different
Yeah.
or overlays because you'd
Yep.
have like the
Multiple
yellow
passes.
on top of a blue to make the green.
Yep.
So you had the 3-color process. So that's what you had to deal with. You
Yeah.
had to lay all that out and have it lined up perfectly on the presses.
When I was working in the 90s, it wasn't the holy crap, that was a long time ago.
You're old.
I know. When I was at a print shop in the 90s, everything was 4-color, CMYK. And yeah, everything was made from those 4 colors.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just depends on how many layers and shit. It's pretty
Yeah,
wild.
it still basically is if I
I'm sure it is. I mean,
correctly.
there's no way. Yeah. Why change
I
it?
can't see any company having that many different shades of red.
Well, you can
know
get
what I
every
mean?
shade
Like,
you want out of those 4 colors. So.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
enough about it. But if anybody out there works at a print shop now, let us know because
Yeah, I'm curious. I bet
I'm
things have
confused.
changed a lot since I've been doing it.
Yeah, I did it back. Shit, they were still doing crap very, very much the way they did 100 years at that point.
Yeah.
Before.
Well, thank God I got to be on a computer with high-tech equipment and cameras because it was much easier.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to play around now. But I still like whenever I do my artwork, I still do my pen and ink work. I still do it the old-fashioned way. I like my Wacom. I do. It makes some things easier for me, and other things I just think, why am I using this computer when I can just make the actual art? I can actually physically still have my piece of art. And some people may say, well, you can just print it out. For me, it's not the same thing.
I understand.
I want the ink in my nails. I want, I gotta spill the ink bottle over on a.
It's another tool. It's another medium. It's like, okay, do I work with paint or do I work with ones and zeros? It's just
yeah. And I like my Wacom, but I really like my pen and ink.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
Cool.
But
back to the movie. I'm sorry, folks.
Leach had no time, and he delivered what I would look at and go, "Oh my God, those are masterpieces. Those are literally." He's an illustrator, but he's like a fine artist. He's a freaking masterpiece. And I don't think, if I remember that, it's been a long time since I read anything, but if I remember, Leach was not happy with his art. Like,
shocking. An artist not happy with their work.
Yeah, with any artist, you're never happy with art. You're just not. But for Dickens to get this story out, and he literally made Christmas what we celebrate nowadays.
That's what's cool.
He pushing this story out there was very much what the common folks celebrated. That's what this whole book, Christmas Carol, celebrates, is the family, the average person, and doing good and doing well. And he he exemplified that. And a lot of people didn't like Dickens' writing, like a lot of upper crust folks, like that one guy he bumps into, and the
Yeah,
guy's like, "Yeah,
who is
poor
that
people in the
factory?
hookers shouldn't be in books." He's like, "Why? You know
Oh
what?
yeah, that guy. Yeah, I was
Why
like,
can you not talk about the because they're common? You know, I pulled my own bootstraps up," and the lady's like, "Yeah,
oh, I
my
love
father gave
that.
us a lot of money."
Yeah, it was great. It's like anybody that says that, well, you just it's like because Dickens just threw it right back at him. So no one
Yeah.
helped you at all.
Yeah, no one helped you at all. And the wife is like, "Well, my father did give you."
If we all look, everybody's been helped some way.
Oh yeah, everybody
So
helps everybody. I mean,
yeah.
that's I try. I'm not always very good at it, folks. I'll be honest with you, but I
Well,
try.
here
You know, and it doesn't always have to be monetary either. You know, it can be just friendly.
one of the things about
Hold
this
on,
is
hold on, just a second. I have to go.
sure. So one of the things I thought was really neat about this movie is like what you're talking about, showing people's outlook on Dickens' work, but also there's lots of comments made about Christmas. It really wasn't celebrated that much. It was, or at
Yeah,
least with these classes of people.
yeah, yeah.
And Charles himself just started to get so into it, and
Mhm.
what he created is something that you and I talk about every Christmas on the show. Is it's almost like a, and they even mention this in the movie, it's just like, here it is, here's the time of the year, look at
Yeah,
this, be a better person, feel better about yourself.
yeah, yeah,
And, it is a nice recharge. It is a nice, thing, and it makes you I watch this movie, and it's like, "You know what? I could do better."
yeah.
And the problem is we all stop thinking that way about a week or 2 after Christmas.
Right.
And it's like, how do we do better as people? And that's a whole 'nother podcast, but
Yeah, yeah,
it always makes me feel good.
yeah.
I I can't watch this movie without having tears in my eyes. It's just it feels
Oh,
so good, and it's
yeah.
just
There's a couple of times when he's yelling at that little Irish girl, you're like, "Are you stupid?"
I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle him because at that point he was Scrooge.
Yeah.
He was Scrooge firing Cratchit on Christmas Eve.
Yep. That's
He
exactly what
sent
it
the poor
was.
little Irish girl, and he when he realized his mistake, he's like, "Well, does anybody look for us?" Oh yeah, find an Irish girl in the streets
An
or what?
Irish homeless maid in the middle of Britain or in the middle of London.
Yeah,
Seriously?
yeah. Good luck.
Oh,
There's only a million of them.
yeah. Luckily, she was nice enough to bring back the book.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking she had a family spot at that point. From that point on, you're part of the family. No
Well,
matter what I say, you're not fired.
I was shocked that the head housekeeper or whatever actually fired her because most people should have known Charles's volatile nature at that point and said, "Just lay low, he'll be all right in the morning."
See, and I wonder if something like that really ever happened. If they
Yeah,
really just were like, just sit over there.
yeah, but
It's
it's
fine.
much more dramatic if he
It's and
throws
that's
her
what you
out.
got to go for. You got to go for the
Yeah,
dramatics.
and it works better that way.
It's kind of like him going to the tar factory, the blackening house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that really was where he worked as a child. After his father is taken out for debtor's prison,
I
they
know, what a
send.
weird concept.
Oh well, they're trying to bring it back, but we get into that another time.
That's another
Um,
podcast.
yeah, that's
But
another podcast.
but
Literally
his
another
family went
show.
with him to the debtor's prison. It's like, what the hell? It's weird.
Yeah, that they used to, but I'm thinking because Kat brought that up, like why did they take the mom and the daughter, but they left the son? Well,
Because the
the
son
son
could
was to
work.
help work off part of his debt.
Yep.
That's why they put him in that house. I mean, if he would have ran away, they probably would have just went and got him and brought him back.
Yeah.
You know, because oh my god, I can't even imagine some of the stuff.
So one of the things about that, it really they did a good job of showing the estrangement of he and
Mhm.
his dad and
Yeah.
why he was so angry and rightfully so.
Oh yeah.
Holy
Absolutely.
fuck.
I totally understand where he was coming from. I totally, as a human being and as who I am, I understood Dickens
Yeah.
in that movie and
Yeah, I did too. I
his
did too.
being
And
upset with his father. I
you
get
could
it.
see that his dad was trying
Mhm.
and just really didn't know
Yeah.
how. And Charles was understandably, fuck you.
Yeah.
We're done. And
I've had
so
enough.
so seeing Charles soften
Right.
and
Right.
realize that he has to give that same Christmas spirit to his dad is touching.
Yeah, and that's like you said. This whole movie is about Charles Dickens. He's never a bad person in the movie. I
No,
mean, they never portray him as just the total jerk.
he's
But you
us. We
see
all
that
think that way.
he has his moments of
Yeah.
Scrooge-like moments.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like he doesn't mean to.
No.
He loses his cool. He says something that he's not meant to say, and he walks off like every human being. You know, we fly off at the mouth, and then we're like 2 minutes after we shut the door and slam it behind us, and we're walking down the street. We're like, ah, fuck, I shouldn't have said that.
Yep. Now how do I fix this shit?
Yeah. How am I going to fix this one? No, Scooby Snacks win.
Yeah.
But you just don't. Everybody has those moments. But I liked his character arc was very much the Scrooge character arc.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it was, and that's what's cool about this movie, because you're watching this movie, you think it's a biography, you're watching A Christmas Carol told very artistically and just so fucking well done, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't praise this movie enough. I can't.
And it's just so good how while Dickens is talking, he's talking to his friend in the very beginning of the movie. He has the one other Thackeray was the other writer, and Charles Dickens has had 3 flops in a row. He's just like,
Thackeray was an insufferable prick.
He goes to the club. He goes to this gentleman's club, diner, whatever the heck it is,
with the ancient waiter.
With the ancient waiter, and it all works out because the waiter comes over and basically stumbles into the table. He can barely hold the tray, and he's like, "What is going on?" And his friend is like, "Oh my God, I'm going to take the teapot." And they're like, "What is your name? Who are you?" And he's like, "The guy's name was Marley."
Mm-hmm.
And you just see Dickens' eyes. Like, this is the first character that he comes up with is Marley. You see his eyes just explode. He's like writing the guy's name down, and the guy's just looking at him like, "What's going on?" And his friend's like, "He collects names. It's fine. Don't worry about it." Then Thackeray comes over. "Oh, Charles, I heard you haven't had a good selling book in 3 months or whatever it is." Like, I don't know how many books this guy was writing at the time. I don't know what you had to do back then to stay on top. Like, there was, I guess, no number one book that you just kept selling for years.
Let me stop just for a second, because I have to interject this. This is one of the things that's neat and shows it's a product of its time. People at the beginning of the movie, we see Charles is on tour, on a book tour.
Right.
Where people would go to concerts nowadays and movies and everything. Yeah. Back then, the author would come and talk. And I do even remember that in this century or last century.
Yeah.
Like Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens did a big thing with that. A lot of spoken word, a lot of talking, a lot of shows. Mm-hmm. So people would go see this stuff. And I found that very interesting. It's like, wow. Yeah. And they were all excited. Hey, we're good. It would be, honestly, if even today, if I got to go listen to Stephen King or somebody that I found that I loved reading their writing, just to hear that mind work. And, that's really cool. So anyway, I'm sorry, go on.
Could you imagine if J.K. Rowling did that, like a 2-hour?
Oh, it'd be cool.
It would be packed. Wherever she went to read some Harry Potter or whatever other books, it would be packed to hear that. Just
I know.
Because nobody does that anymore.
No, they don't.
And she could give all that. She's so freaking rich. She could give any money that she made on tickets to charity and just walk away and go, "I'm a good person." But that's another story. That'd be just something really cool to do.
It would to see anybody like that. But that was cool that was the thing going on.
But Thackeray comes over, and Thackeray is like his frenemy. Like, they talk, but they don't like each other. And Thackeray is just, he knows Charles Dickens is having a hard time. He's poking the bear, man. He's kicking the hornet's nest. He's fucking with this guy. He's like, "Oh, he's got writer's block. Oh, I hope we don't have writer's block, Charles."
He had such a hard-on for putting other writers down. He's such a weasel.
And he does this kind of thing like 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the movie, Charles Dickens is getting his book published, and it's come out, and Thackeray walks up to him at the club and says, "Well, I have," and you find out at that point that Thackeray is also a critic. He's not just a fellow writer, but he's a critic of other writers. He says, "Well, I have a pre-copy. I'm going to read this, and I'll let everyone know what I think." And he goes and sits down and he opens it, and he's really like, he's flipping open the book.
Oh, he's fully expecting it to be shit.
And you're like, this son of a bitch. This kid's he's gonna fucking hammer him at the end of this. Oh, you bastard. Yeah. And then very towards the end, it's getting a little bit closer to the end. Everybody's at Charles Dickens' house. He's put the tree up. He's like, yeah, they call it a Tannenbaum, the tree. Yeah. He's like, I don't, the Queen's doing it, so everybody's going to do it now and whatever. But the family's there, and his friend comes in with his girlfriend, which I was very happy about. He comes in with his girl. He's got the newspaper. He says, Thackeray's review is here. And Charles Dickens is like, I don't want to hear this. No way. I do not want to hear this.
No, because he's fully expecting, yeah.
He starts reading Thackeray's review, and Thackeray's review couldn't have been more loving and honorable and praise of this story and how this is what Christmas is. Charles Dickens is a god, basically calling him a god of writers. Yeah, this man, he gets it. And Charles Dickens is just like, holy crap. Like, and this is one nice little moment where you're not expecting it. You're not expecting Thackeray, of all people. Right. You've watched this guy just be a total jerk through this whole movie. Suddenly have an honest moment and say, this is a good story. This isn't just a good story. This is a great story. Yeah. And truth be told, I read A Christmas Carol every year. I've read it every year for 15 or 20 years. And I read it right around Christmas time. It's just a ritual with me. I read it every year. And I tell you, I learn and I see something in this story that is, I like to think Dickens is up in heaven looking down going, hey, I got at least a guy. Every year this guy reads my book. This is great. Something, I don't know. But there's something about this particular Dickens story for me that it grabs my heart every time.
It's well done.
And then to watch this movie and you see the humorous plot that's unraveling and the fact that he's having such a hard time writing it and the characters are alive in the room with him.
I know, that's what's so funny. They're with him the whole time.
They're with he'll go out and he's like, I got to get out of here. I got to stop writing. And all the characters will stand up and start walking towards the door. And he's like, no, I'm going alone. And they'll all look at each other like, right.
But that's what's cool. They show you what it's like inside a writer's head.
Yeah.
All of that is always there, you know?
You can't get rid of them, folks. I mean, they're always, even if as little of writing as I've done, I still have some characters that pop up every once in a while and go, hey, you're going to get back to it or what? We got playing to do. Come on.
So, and that's interesting. I liked seeing that because when I wrote my screenplay, it was like having conversations with these people. It was like because you want to know what makes them tick and who they are, and they start to come alive. And no, I didn't actually see anybody there, but that shit's in your head. It's like you're talking to them, and it's like it works so damn well in here.
And when a character doesn't want to do something, you can't force it. Because if you force a character to go do something, it reads like crap. It really does. And you can, sometimes you can really tell when if you haven't read J.K. Rowling, I've already talked about that. She did off with a couple of her characters. Mm-hmm. The movies show that she killed off a couple of characters. I think she forced those because none of them ever felt honest. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And she can very easily fix it with the little time spinner. That's, just do it, JK.
Yeah, just it's not going to be fixed.
go back and fix it, for crying out loud. But what I'm saying is you feel it. When Arthur Conan Doyle killed off Sherlock Holmes, everybody in the world went nuts.
Oh, sure.
Are you kidding me? And it was because Sherlock Holmes was getting more famous than him. And he was actually regretting it. He forced a moment that didn't need to be forced.
Yeah.
He could have just stopped writing for a while. He had to bring Sherlock Holmes back because everybody was mad at Arthur Conan Doyle.
Well, of course they were.
So when you force a character to do something, it doesn't work.
Well, and
no matter how much you want it to be this way,
that's what they showed in here. Yeah, they showed that because originally Tiny Tim died.
Yeah.
And it was Tara his housekeeper, who
First one to say it.
said, "You can't kill Tiny Tim." But here's the thing that she said. Scrooge wouldn't let that happen. There's
Yeah,
good in him. There's somewhere there's good.
yeah,
Because we all have a hard time thinking that somebody could be so callous and so evil that they would watch a little crippled kid die when they
right.
could control it. I'd like to believe there's not people like that, but there is,
There are
unfortunately.
people like that. Yes, absolutely.
So she had so much faith in humanity as a whole that there's no way Scrooge could. And you know what?
Yeah,
You do not have a Christmas Carol without Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim is the linchpin that holds this whole thing together.
yeah. As much as you might not like that character in some of the movies that you watch him in because he's poorly portrayed or whatever, you're right. Without Tiny Tim, Scrooge doesn't have a character
He
arc.
has no arc.
Yeah, there's nothing for Scrooge to go. I'm a bad person, but now I'm good. There's nothing there because if Tiny Tim dies and Scrooge turns out to be a good person anyway, there's still no arc. It doesn't fit. I like whenever his friend is talking to him, Forster is talking to him, and he lets Forster read the entire story.
Yeah.
And Forster's like, "Oh no, this is brilliant. This is great." One tiny criticism, and this is after the little Irish girl tells him, and he's like, "What's that?" He's, "You can't kill Tiny Tim." And he's like, "Oh my God, did you too?"
He was mad. Yeah, that was his way.
No, you can't kill Tiny Tim.
I
You're the
get
one
it.
who told me to kill Little Nell. He's like, and I stand by that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get his need. He want because that was the style he was writing. I guess that's why this just hits so well. Is because people saw that, and your heart breaks. Here's the deal. When it comes to Christmas carols, I have a favorite, and it's the Muppet movie. And
yeah.
that whole scene in the Muppet movie with Miss Piggy and Tiny Tim's not there, and it's
my God, if you haven't watched the Muppet Christmas Carol, this is a timeout moment for you. I'm going to spoil it. They kill a Muppet. Doesn't stay dead, but it's enough to pull a tear down your cheek.
And if it doesn't, you're not human.
Exactly.
That's all there is to it. Because
you don't kill a Muppet.
You don't kill a Muppet. You don't kill a Muppet. But that's just it. It's just this is so close. And once I realized I was watching A Christmas Carol without watching A Christmas Carol, it was like, this is bloody brilliant. Yeah, man. It's so goddamn good. That's it. This is my final thoughts on the movie. Okay. Go fucking watch it. It's amazing. Merry Christmas. You can't get better. It's good. Yeah, it's great.
If you love A Christmas Carol, if you love the story, if you like Dickens, watch this movie. You're gonna love it. If you don't love it, I don't understand. I can't. I don't know where the disconnect could come from. I watched this a few years ago when it first came out. I was like, that looks interesting. I finally saw it. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll watch that. And the first time I watched it, I fell in love with it. I've watched this every year since it's been available too.
I will be watching it again. I will definitely be watching the Muppets this year. But it was so good, dude. It was so fucking brilliant.
I'm glad you liked it. I was hoping you'd like it because I know you like
10 out of 10. It's a great fucking movie. Yeah. It's definitely only criticism I had was sound design. I mean, come on.
And that only happens, I think, once or twice.
Yeah, and it could be my setup. So,
well, and I'm also not sure if that's like intended.
Yeah, I don't know. It's possible because there's a few that I knew it was going to be muddled, but God, it's so good, so good.
Just Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, Scrooge. Yeah, he's brilliant. I would love to see him do a full Scrooge, but we're never going to get that.
Yeah, never going to get it, but it'd be nice. But this movie, folks, if you like A Christmas Carol, this is Dickens and how it came to be.
It's so good. It's so good. Blown away.
That's all there is to it. Yeah, you can't. I can't even. I was gushing at this movie whenever I brought it up to you. And I wasn't sure if the this is a great movie came across, or if it was just like maybe.
No, it came across. I knew you really loved it, but as we watch all these movies, you and our tastes don't always align.
No,
but I trust your opinion. It's like, well, I know it's going to be good. Whether or not I like it, that's going to be a whole nother thing. I know I'm going to watch a good movie, and I fell in love with it pretty quickly. pretty quickly. It's like once I started seeing all the Easter eggs, it's like, oh my God, I know my wife was ready for me to shut up. I'm like, look, so-and-so, you know? So it's like, yeah.
You're now to the point in our life where when we start watching a movie together, we'll sit there and discuss it. And if we can pause it, we will pause it. We'll pause it.
I've done that. Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you?
Yeah.
What do you think that means? And then we'll talk about that scene, and then we go back and watch it. And
I try not to do that.
Yeah, we're either completely right or completely wrong. It's like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So, very cool. So, your final take on this movie? Brilliant.
This is a must watch. For me, this is a must watch. If you're a fan of Dickens, if you love A Christmas Carol, if you just love Christmas movies, this movie does for me what A Christmas Carol does for me. It makes me feel good and have hope for humanity. And folks, right now, we need all the hope for humanity
we always do,
possibly get. So, little prayer for everybody out there. This movie does it. And if you're not a praying person, I totally understand. Go light some incense, light a candle, whatever makes you feel good about yourself.
Positive vibes, whatever.
High fives.
High fives, yeah.
High fives. I don't. That's how this movie. It's a feel good movie. It really is.
It is.
And I thoroughly enjoy it.
Speaking of feel good movies, and speaking of Muppets, our next movie.
So happy.
is Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Emmett Otter.
I have not watched this in probably 30, 40 years, dude.
I watch this every Christmas.
I saw this when it came out, when it was on TV in the specials. So the 80s. I have not seen it since, but I have went and folks folks go watch the bloopers on YouTube.
Oh, the bloopers
of this movie. Brilliant. You will fucking die. It is so hilarious.
Hey, that drum almost hit me.
Just the facial expressions that they're doing. It's like
to get those facial expressions.
It's brilliant. So I can't wait to talk about. I love puppetry, so I can't wait to see this.
Fantastic. You are right. For Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Those bloopers will have you crying.
You folks, you can't do any better than that either. There's another feel-good movie.
Yeah.
That's a tearjerker too, because there's a couple of times where you're about ready to cry for Emmett Otter and his mama.
Oh no. Okay, it's been so long. I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything. So it was funny because Janine didn't believe me that there's a movie called Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. She's like, "What? We're going to watch what?" I'm like, "Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas."
She's never seen it.
Never.
Oh, you got to let me know what she thinks about that one.
Oh, you'll know.
This is one of my penultimate movies. This is
I can't wait for me. I can't wait. We're hitting it out of the park this holiday season.
Yeah.
So, folks, I thank you so much for joining in, subscribing, hitting like, sharing. I want to give a shout out to our friend David Carroll, who joined us a while back and still is a big fan of ours. Thank you, and I'm sorry that Strange Brew was not to your liking.
Oh, he doesn't like Strange Brew?
No, and I get it. He said it was stupid, and I said I agree. It's completely stupid, and I love every fucking second of it.
Yeah, it's stupid. I'm not going to argue.
And I get it. It's not for everybody. Appreciate. It was funny because he said he watched it, and then he listened to our podcast and heard us talk about it because I saw he posted online about it. I was like, "Oh, dude was listening to our podcast." No, he did it before, and it just lined up.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's very funny.
Strange Brew coming in 2023. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, that's a must watch. We're gonna have to get that one on there.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So thanks again, folks, for joining us. Stay tuned. Come in every week. Our podcast goes live on Monday mornings at 6 a.m. Central on YouTube and on your podcast station. Hopefully, it'll be on Instagram. Having some issues over there.
And I'm moving all of our stuff that's on YouTube over to Rumble. It's going to be a while because we have a lot of videos and it takes a while to move the stuff, but everything's getting moved over there. I'm doing it the old-fashioned way because I'm making copies and just backing everything up because you never know what's going to happen on YouTube.
You never know. You never know.
But yeah, we're having a good time doing this, and I want to thank you very much for following us and for watching. And
catch you next week with some otters.
Word.